thanks for coming. So we met Noah recently. She wandered into the co-working space and she was asking about dancing and climbing, anything to do with movement. And so when the prospect of an off the lips came up, of doing an off the lips came up, it was only appropriate that it was something to do with movement. Noah is a biologist by training, is that right?
Yes, so getting there. In the process.
In the process of becoming a biologist.
Yeah.
She's been JBA for a few months now, is that right?
No, just a month.
Just a month, okay,
yeah.
A month. But originally from Austria. Perfect. Cool, okay, so let's hand over to Noah to hear more about movement and the nervous system. Thanks, Noah.
Yeah, my laptop actually had a little crash, so this is a bit of the improvised version. But yeah, I think we will. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk a bit about stuff that I have like from dancing and like climbing as well, because I started climbing a really long time ago actually. And then, like classic story, I had an injury, blah, 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 so I changed, in a way, a bit like the approach I have to movement. I think it's always sort of been there, that I go for like a more, I don't know, internal, grounded, blah, blah, blah approach to movement, because I also do yoga, and there you're sort of a lot in like working with your body instead of against it. And because I do biology as well, we did learn some about how the nervous system works, and that has been, yeah, just really interesting to me as well to see it through that perspective. So I'll just share some like what I know. And it'll be a bit interactive, but like by choice. So if you want to do some of the stuff, like feel free. And also if you have any like questions, just like feel free to ask. So I don't know, we have like our bodies, right? And when we move, we use our muscles, but that's also linked to sort of the nerves. And I don't know if you guys know, but this is sort of what like a nerve cell looks like. Biology. Like nerve cells are like kind of small, and there's literally like millions of them in our body. So like we have layers of our skin, and in our skin there's actually not so many, but when we get deeper there's like thick tissue which is full of nerve cells. And they're sort of responsible for like taking up signals from the outside and then transmitting it like to our brain. And the way it works is you have sort of your brain, it's sort of like the central processing unit, it's sort of like where everything like goes. And then it's integrated into everything like memory, associations we have, and then it gives you some kind of output. And that is like super complex, we don't really get all of it. But basically these simple building blocks of our nervous system are these nerve cells. And they have like all of these dendrites. And literally each of these dendrites is connected to the next nerve cell. And one nerve cell has like a few thousand to 10,000 like dendrites that go in and are linked to another nerve cell. So that's basically a lot of options you have in how you transmit stuff or signals like across your body. So each nerve cell is sort of like linked to another part of your body. And when we learn, and also when we learn like movement, we learn forms of movement that sort of feeds back to our brain. And our brain sort of saves or like recognizes these movement patterns that we then just have sort of internalized inside of our body. So it becomes a sort of pattern that we can like keep doing and activating just by, I don't know, seeing something, you see, okay, there's a door, like walk towards it, open it. And this becomes like very automatic. And yeah, I mean, if they're actually inside our body and you put a microscope through it, this is kind of what it looks like. So they're sort of in our tissue, and they sort of connect And yeah, when we learn, when we change stuff or when we do stuff, the nerve cells sort of open up and can even wander and change their connections. And that's how sort of new connections are made. If they're in the brain, it's a bit more dense. So you would have really like a lot of nerve cells in a short or a small space, which basically makes for like a lot of connections or a lot of ways you can react to certain things, certain stimuli. And then that just feeds back to our body where nerve cells are like connected to our muscles again. So the brain really like takes up signals from the outside and sort of stores reactions that we have as theoretical possibilities, but the actual like effect, how we execute that, is in our bodies. So often we kind of reduce this is very biology, but this is what it looks like. Like people don't know a lot of the time that this is what our tissue does look like if we put a microscope on it or like, do a cross section.
And then make a painting of it.
Yeah, no, but if you like literally if you dye it, this is like real thing. So basically we do have our brains which can sort of tell us what to do, and they also like give us all this visual information or like auditory information. But what we also have is this extra sort of nervous system inside of our bodies, because every fiber of our body actually has nerve cells running through and from it, and this is what allows us to sort of like navigate, move, do whatever. So usually things are like quite dense, and there's nerve cells like inside of it and also going to it. So this would be a muscle cell. This is what muscle looks like. And the way muscle works is that it has only two options. It can either like contract or relax. And so muscles are like arranged in sort of antagonistic pairs. So you would always have one muscle that contracts while the other one relaxes. And this is what allows us to move. You're always playing this game of what am I relaxing and what am I contracting? And often we kind of forget about the relaxation part actually. We always think like contract, like how. But the thing is actually the game, to move, we always have to relax one part of our body while contracting the other. And that's how we sort of do stuff. These are muscle cells. And basically what happens is that these sort of bands that are really arranged, they either move towards each other or move apart again. And it's a nerve cell that sort of signals or puts a signal, okay, now you're contracting, and then the muscle sort of does that. So that's sort of muscle tissue, which we have like all across our bodies. And the last sort of ingredient of this whole thing is our spine, like something we also forget about. And this is actually what I wanted to focus on today. Because the spine is really quite special in that it's also the second part of our central nervous system. But we only talk about the brain like all the time. We're like, okay, brain. But in fact, we have a second brain. It kind of is like a second brain, and that is our spine. So there's a lot of like nerve endings that run to and from the spine, and they go out to like every part of our body. And they also like integrate stimulus from the outside. They sort of recognize, stimulus from our organs as well, but they feel like a lot of stuff. It's sort of like pressure. Am I experiencing pressure? Am I in the right position? Am I not? All of that feeds back to our spine, in fact, before it goes to our brain. There's sort of like a pre-filter of what actually goes to our brain and is worth thinking about. And a lot of it is not actually filtered to go to the brain. It's just like, okay, you stay here, do this. And that is sort of the role of our spine in also coordinating our movements it really is more the effector and has all these like nerve endings running to all the rest of our like limbs and allow those to like do what they do. So here's also a image. So there's like different parts of our spine. Our spine runs basically from our tailbone, which in theory you can also like feel is like right at the base of your back, all the way up to like your head. So at the top of your spine, you're actually carrying your head, which is quite heavy. And in all of that, your spine does not, it's sort of a fluid thing, right? It's not a bone, a hard, continuous bone. It has sort of cartilage in between, so it is also like flexible and it can move. And it gives signals to all of like the stuff to do what it has to do. But basically in movement, what's really interesting is, at least for me, this was a real change in how I thought about movement or how I moved, that the spine is actually initiating a lot of movement. And often we ignore that. So like when I was climbing is a lot about like tension and like holding tension. You're like on small things and then you have to like hold, I don't know, something, also really weird positions, and like really, really, really tense up and then reach for the next thing. And often when you do that, you forget about your spine. You're not really doing anything. You work a lot with your shoulders and you're focused on the tension also rather than the release. And so then, when I got into dancing, that changed. So it was really interesting because when I first started dancing, we had a lot of work or orientation around how movement is initiated and goes through our spine, and sort of really like relaxing part of our body. So especially relaxing like this lower part, so you're standing solid like with your hips, and then you initiate the movement starting from the spine, and also like doing a lot of spine rolls to like release tension so that you can work differently with your body. And yeah, for me that was like really interesting because there's actually a lot of forms of movement where you are using your spine and you're not noticing. So also when you run, and you can try this, what happens when you're running, because our spine has this double S shape, you are actually propelling yourself forwards. And ideally, when you sort of take a step and run forwards, your spine is actually absorbing the shock of taking each step. Because I don't know if anyone has run like a lot or for a longer time, you can get like issues with your joints, your knees, and so on and so forth. And this is also often because we don't release the tension through our spine or tense up like too much. And yeah, I don't know if I did mention it, but I did want to like add or include a little interactive part. So if anyone is keen to like try, we sit a lot, right? And basically when we are sitting, this also builds up a lot of tension. So if you guys want, you can sort of like stand up and do something. So with your spine, you can sort of like release a lot of tension. Yeah, everyone stand up. We're gonna like release some tension from our spine. So I don't know, you can sort of like just stand normally and sort of feel how you are sort of now. And often we have like a lot of tension in our neck, and sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. But basically to release that, and it depends what you feel comfortable with, but you can sort of like do a spinal roll. So to like really activate your spine a bit, going from the bottom. So you can, an easy version is to just like rotate your shoulder. That already like takes a lot of tension out. You can also like move from side to side, because often we stay with our neck really in like one position. And that also like releases a lot, and also like activates a lot of your nervous system so that you could, I don't know, move better and more fluidly. Also, if you like move your arms forward and back, like this, you can open up a lot of like your chest and relax your muscles like as well. And these are like super simple things. It might be like weird at the beginning, but there are actually studies show that you can be more productive if every like half an hour or like an hour you go for like a short walk and sort of like release some of the tension that you're building up, because it also blocks the way going up into your brain. So thank you. That was it. Yeah. So you can actually literally do that to like boost your like being alert, your productivity, and really just also long-term issues you have with your neck in just holding a lot of tension from being in the same position all the time, because we're basically not built to be for a long time in like one position. We're built for moving around, for, I don't know, reaching for stuff, doing different things. Yeah, so especially when it really depends on the kind of movement you're doing in your day-to-day life. But you can really go on like a lot of levels in this. But if you integrate more of also your natural like range of motion, so that's another thing I could like go into, but yeah. So we have a natural like range of motion in which our like muscles, these antagonistic pairs, like to move. And if we go too far out from that or like overstretch that, that really increases the risk of injury. So consciously, and yoga, to be honest, is quite good at that, unless it really depends how you practice as well, but in general it's really good for staying in your natural range of motion while opening up your muscles. And this is sometimes also underestimated, but this again is really, really, really useful in keeping your body and also like your muscles well balanced in how they hold tension and flexibility. In the long term, like it really benefits you in being able to move freely, like also for a long time, and just not getting stiff all over and getting sort of like blocked. So this is again this overview of where your spine goes. So it really does a lot. And I think on the whole, that was what I wanted to share. So here is a guy from our dancing group who's amazing. And in my sort of like dance thing, especially when I started, it was contemporary dance, but also with a lot of improvisation. And I think for me, after climbing, that was really like so nice and like beneficial to just explore movement and so on. And I sort of really took that it is so good, even if you love to do something like climbing or like whatever it is you guys love, to take complementary movements as well out of the like patterns that our muscles have, because basically if you repeat the pattern like all the time, do the same thing with like your neurons that are like, structured and learned in a certain way, that is when you like run the risk of like injuries, feeling just building up a lot of tension in something, and in the long term, just getting injuries or getting stuck. So quality of movement improves a lot if you just do like random stuff to like release every now and then. And there's a lot of ways to do so.
Cool, thanks so much, Noah. I'm going to open the floor to questions. And if there's no immediate ones, I might start.
Cool.
So if one wanted to pick up one habit, to try and, one daily habit or weekly habit to try and improve spine health and nervous system health, would it be yoga or?
What's your time commitment?
I mean,
like honestly, if you have like 10 minutes a day and you do a stretching routine in the morning, it doesn't have to be first thing when you wake up, but just at a time when you know it's gonna happen already that helps like a lot. And there just, yoga is amazing, but really like stretches that open up your shoulders are really good, that open up your hip a bit, because often we also don't really open the hip. So either just like rotating it or like doing lunges and then doing something like that. And yoga is really amazing. Just short. It works a lot. It works, yeah.
And can you talk a bit more about the type of dance that you started? You mentioned it briefly, but I didn't fully understand what it was.
Yeah, no, so it's mainly just contemporary dance and like an improvised version where you do have like some technique, but it's a lot of like just going with the music, with the flow, and also doing that in sort of like partnering. So yeah.
Okay.
So when you started dancing, did you also feel like a significant improvement in your climbing?
That is interesting. That's an interesting question. It took a while, but absolutely, yes. 100%. Because you're sort of thinking, you do stuff differently. And also, like there was then a period I didn't climb, and then obviously my level kind of, it didn't actually really drop. That's the interesting thing. It sort of like stayed the same. But then when I started again, I mean, first of all, I didn't push as much anymore, so I don't know. But then even without doing so many sessions, without like pushing it or trying, I improved. So yeah.
So that improvement wasn't necessarily in strength or in flexibility, or I guess flexibility is a metric in approaching climbing, but it was more your technique and your approach to the actual wall.
Yeah, I think it was really mainly this thing about complementary movement. Because if you do one move or one like set of movements, patterns all the time, you sort of like get really tense in that, and that actually compromises your muscle as well. So if you like actively do stuff to move and like not go against, but be complementary to the movement patterns that you have in your daily life, that is when you release, because these muscles work in these complementary pairs, right? That is when you release actually the muscle that is tense all the time. Because if you're just tensing in the aim of getting stronger, you never, you reach a limit basically. So it's really when you work against that, and I mean it's not like it's hard or anything. You just do another movement than you usually do, and do that for a bit, or do that several times for a few minutes, 5 minutes. It literally just also releases stuff. And that way these other muscles that are holding tension all the time are ready to hold tension again. And that for me was really a moment where also when I'm working, when I'm sitting at my desk, I feel sometimes, either I want to move or I'm getting blocked. Then I just walk. I walk and come back and get back to it.
Any more questions, Chad?
So then if you're dancing, would it also be quite focused on breath? As yoga is very focused on breath for releasing.
It can be, yeah. And it's actually beautiful when you dance with your breath. But I'll be honest, I don't always do that now. I sometimes you just forget. Just do whatever, yeah.
That's an interesting question. Now, how does, maybe it's a long answer, it doesn't need to be a long answer, breath linking to the nervous system?
Yeah,
is that something
that is a question I thought about.
Oh, really? Is it a long answer? Or,
No, I mean, it can be a very simple one. When we breathe, breathing is basically getting oxygen into our system, into our blood. And what we need oxygen for is energy production. So basically, if we wouldn't breathe, this is also why we really have issues when we don't breathe for like longer than a minute. It's basically because the energy production goes down completely and all of our reactions just collapse and like, yeah, we can't function anymore. So you need oxygen to sort of nurture in a way your muscle. So it produces ATP, which you then need to fuel like the contractions. So basically transmitting the the signal to your muscle, and then also doing the actual contraction that requires like ATP. And that is the process that is activated by oxygen. So basically when you breathe more deeply and you have more oxygen in your blood, and especially when you breathe in a way that you're getting oxygen to a certain like place in your body, that's when your muscles, I don't know, I guess have more capability to like contract or can do contractions at higher rate, recover quicker, and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you talk about the relationship between cold water exposure and
Cold water. Okay, that is something I haven't gone into so much. Food. I mean, I guess what cold water does automatically, it like makes your muscles contract more. So you mean like in a health aspect, or just like what it does?
Like very often, like there's a small cold exposure movement people take cold plunges.
And also to like improve immune system.
I don't know what it does. I was hoping.
Yeah. No, sorry. I don't like the cold so much. No, but it is really great. I think it's really like probably activating and good for your immune system.
Cool. If there's no more questions, I'll just ask my usual one. How did you end up in J-Bay really quickly?
How did I end up in J-Bay? Well, I'm actually volunteering at Ubuntu, and I did so because I just finished my degree and I hadn't been at the ocean for a really long time. So, and I also wanted to come to South Africa, come back. So I ended up in J-Bay, worst places to be.
Cool. Thanks so much, Noah.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you sharing that.